It's 2002. Not even a year has passed since the deadly terror attacks of September 11th rocked the nation. People from all around the United States are trying to piece together their lives, knowing that terrorists could strike again at any moment. And the fear hits home when suddenly people start dying around the nation's capital. One bullet, one gas station, one parking lot at a time. This week on Two Crime Newsies, we're talking about the two men who became infamously known as the DC Snipers. Hey everyone, I'm Jen. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, I'm Tina.
So before we begin, Tina, I just want to say, how cute are these coffee mugs in front of us?
Adorable.
Today's episode is sponsored. Tina, we're sponsored!
Yay!
By Roots and Spores Coffee. Let me give you a little bit of background on Roots and Spores. I have known about them for a while. I know the owner of Roots and Spores, and totally good guy. And he decided that he wanted to sponsor us because he believes in our podcast.
I love it.
So we are drinking Pinnacle Peak, which is their medium roast, and it's delicious. It's certified organic and it's fair trade, which is amazing.
I want to mention that the tasty notes on here are blueberry, roasted almond, chocolate, walnut, and strawberry.
Yum. I just took a drink.
A fruity coffee, my dream. And the smell of these coffee beans, incredible.
So good. I love the company's slogan, "In each cup lies a story. Which one will you tell?"
That's perfect for us.
Right? Right? It's so good with our podcast. And the thing I really love about this brand is that it's committed to enhance the livelihoods of farmers around the globe. They receive fair compensation per pound, which is something that a lot of companies do not do. Go check out their website, rootsandspores.com, and I highly recommend ordering some, and they can ship anywhere. And the cool thing is they also have a subscribe feature, so you never run out of delicious coffee in the morning.
That's great.
Yeah. So cheers, my friend. And before we get into the episode, I also want to say that podcasting takes a whole lot of work. Per episode, it takes Tina and I about 25 hours from notes to recording to editing,
social media,
socials, all of it. And with this, as you can imagine, we need quite a bit of caffeine. So thankfully, Roots and Spores has kicked in. But if you love what we're doing, you can also contribute to our coffee fund and make a donation. And you can do that at buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies. All right, my friend, let's get started on today's episode. We are talking about a Netflix show called Catching Killers. Now it's season 3, episode 4, Trained to Kill the DC Sniper. Like how I did that?
Yes, I did.
I can honestly say I read several books on the DC Sniper case. I watched probably every single documentary ever made about the DC Sniper case. It's one of those cases that has always completely gripped me.
Jen, I don't remember this happening so close to the September 11th anniversary. What an absolute stressful time.
It really was. The show opens up with a wide shot of the DC Beltway, which it shows a very busy roadway system that transports thousands of commuters around the nation's capital from their homes to their offices every single day. And while we fly over this highway, we hear a 911 call. And a woman is frantically saying that a man is dead on Aspen Hill Road at a mobile gas station, and he was killed right in front of her. And you can hear the absolute fear in her voice as she talks to the 911 dispatchers.
We see a recreation of a detective arriving to the scene. He parks, goes straight to his trunk, and puts on a bulletproof vest. Because he's of no help, he says, to anyone if he gets shot. Then he says, chaos erupted. We hear multiple excerpts of 911 calls. Sirens are blaring. And the detective tells us the feeling around this time wasn't, when is this going to stop? He says, It was where's next.
It all started during morning rush hour traffic on October 3rd, 2002, in Montgomery County, Maryland. Now, police rushed to the gas station and find 54-year-old Prem Williker laying on the ground by his car. Now, Detective Terry Bryan of the Montgomery County Police says a loud bang had been heard by a person at the adjacent gas pump, and she heard Prem Williker say he had been shot before he collapsed on the ground.
And while we're hearing the story, we're also seeing photos from the scene that day. And there's so much blood. It looks like a violent attack happened, but no one sees anyone. No one is running. There's no vehicle speeding off, just someone shot out of nowhere. It doesn't make sense. And I find that so disturbing. There was no conflict, no confrontation, no cause, no effect, just a sudden, brutal act of violence. It reminds me, Jen, of something you would read in a Stephen King novel.
Oh, that's a really great way of putting it. You're right. Just like out of the blue.
Right. Shock.
Shock. Complete shock. So Roger Thompson of the Montgomery County Police Department's homicide unit says he was at the scene and was getting briefed by Detective Ryan when he received a call saying that there had been another shooting. 34-year-old Sarah Ramos was shot while she was sitting on a bench in front of a fast food restaurant about a mile away from the gas station shooting. 1 mile away. And immediately red flags go up in police officers' minds because they have 2 shootings in such a close amount of time within a close proximity to each other. And it immediately makes everybody wonder, are these 2 cases linked?
Another thing that's disturbing, it's the 8 a.m. hour. It's morning. You normally think about violent acts happening at night or because there was some sort of confrontation.
Like a fight or something.
Right. This woman was sitting on a bench. The man at the gas station was pumping gas. 2 completely mundane things.
I remember watching the news that day when the first shootings happened and seeing this video firsthand of Sarah Ramos sitting on the green bench in front of the restaurant. She was covered up by a white sheet, but you could see the blood smeared all over the bottom of the sheet. She's sitting there and kind of like slumped over in the video footage with this cover over her body. But you know when you sit on a bench, like you sit straight up. And behind where she had been sitting up, after being shot, she slumped. You can see a really large hole in the glass window of the restaurant in the area where her head would have been. And I was in 8th grade when this happened. And I still remember that. I still remember seeing that firsthand when I got home from school and turned on the news. I was the kid who literally, instead of watching cartoons, like I turned on the news. And from that first day, I followed this case so closely. Every single day, I would get home from school, flip on the news, and I was glued to the screen because I wanted to know what was going to happen next and when they were going to catch this person.
I couldn't imagine watching that as an 8th grader. I was in college. There's our age difference. Homicide Supervisor Thompson says there were not that many homicides in Montgomery County during this time. And now, in a matter of minutes, they have 2, just a mile apart from each other. He says they've run out of people to send to the crime scene.
While Thompson is on the phone with investigators at the second shooting, we hear he received a call from another police officer who was at a local hospital who believed that a person who had brought in to the hospital for some kind of incident involving a lawnmower had in fact also been shot. And that Montgomery County may in fact have 3 shootings in the span of a few hours. We hear that 39-year-old James Buchanan was mowing a lawn and he was shot, and he too ended up dying. All 3 of these people ended up dying. And as you can imagine, this is a big problem because there's no way of knowing where the suspect or the suspects was and who would be his or her next victim.
And again, no one saw anything. There are no witnesses, no bullet casings. People are being shot, killed, and all they have is a general direction of where the bullet may have come from.
And within an hour of the first shooting, clearly you can imagine the news media shows up. We're talking helicopters overhead, reporters, photographers on the ground. This is big news. 3 people have been murdered during the morning rush hour commute to work around the nation's capital.
Even the police are terrified. No one had ever seen this type of violence here before. And you know who's not terrified?
Who?
The media.
They're out in the middle of it.
I was guilty of this too. And I think it's because you have a false sense of security when police are around. You feel safe because the police are right there.
Yeah.
But in this case, there are more media than there are police officers at the scene. And I feel safer when it's the other way around.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I was working at the TV station, we had sent a photographer out to a scene that a shooting had happened the night before. It was at an apartment complex in town. He was out there just getting some like B-roll of the scene, like where it happened. And he calls the assignments desk, and I was working on the desk that day. And I answer the phone, and he's like, "Jen, you need to call the police." And I was like, "Why? What's going on? What's going on?" He was like, "Jen, you need to call the police, like right now." So I asked him, I'm like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "I was just shot at." And the people who had done the shooting the night before, it had been like a drive-by shooting at this apartment complex, they had shot at his camera.
Oh my God.
And you could tell the adrenaline was pumping. Like, he was scared, rightfully so. But in that moment, he was super strong about it, and he was like, "I need to call for help." And turned out he was the story that night. You know, our photographer was shot at by these people.
You think that you're safe because
You have a camera.
You and your media, and you're not doing anything malicious or trying to hurt anybody. But there were definitely times when we would show up to a scene and the police would tell us, "Hey, we're about to wrap up here. You should leave. It's not safe for you to be here, especially when we're not around."
Yeah, it's scary.
Right.
It's really scary. So back to the story. Little factoid there. Little shout out to that photographer.
I'm glad he's okay.
I know. He and I still remain friends to this day. He's such a great person. He's now working at a local university, and just great, great person.
That's awesome.
Okay, back to the story. Right before 10 a.m., Montgomery County 911 gets another call about another shooting at a gas station a few miles away. The killer is on the move. He's hunting people around Washington, D.C. He's driving around looking for what he thinks is the perfect target. And this is beyond chilling because at this point, anyone could be shot. Anyone who is out of the safety of their home is fair game to him. This killer or killers don't care what you look like. They don't care what you're doing. They're out there for blood. And as you can imagine, terror is gripping everyone, including police, like you mentioned. The people who are responsible for protecting the public, they're scared too. And Detective Ryan ends up leaving the first shooting scene at the mobile gas station and heads to the fourth shooting scene at another gas station where 25-year-old Lori Ann Lewis Rivera was vacuuming out her minivan when she was shot.
Detective Ryan describes to us what it was like that day, having to call the victim's husband and then talk to him face to face and tell him that his wife was killed. He remembers the husband asking him what he should tell his kids. And the detective breaks down at this point, and I can't imagine having to relive all of this.
Thompson goes back to the police station to try and make sense of all these murders when he received word that there was a shooting the night before. Now, could this shooting the night before have something to do with today's 4 shootings? And we hear around 6 p.m. the previous night on October 2nd at a Shoppers Food Warehouse grocery store, 55-year-old James Martin had been shot and killed in the parking lot. And just like all the October 3rd shootings, there was no eyewitnesses. No one saw a person actually shoot these victims. And at this point, police have 5 shootings in the span of 15 hours in Montgomery County. All of the victims had been shot by a single bullet, fired at a distance. So clearly this person knew something about firearms.
Also, Supervisor Thompson tells us that usually there's a connection between a victim and a suspect. So they have to gather a ton of information after this. Do all of these victims work together? Do they have a person they know in common? At this point, the police finally get some help. The FBI and the ATF, which is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, are now all involved.
I wonder why it's not ATFE.
I'm not even joking. I thought the same thing.
Alcohol, A. Tobacco, T. Firearms,
I
F.
wonder if the E came later and they just left it as ATF. You know?
I mean, I feel like that would make sense.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. If you guys know out there, send us a message. If any of you are ATF agents, send us a message. Tell us.
Watch what you're asking for.
All right. So police at this point start putting together a timeline. I love a good timeline. I do. You know what else I really love? I love when they do those string maps. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Those
They
are
were doing this on the screen.
I know.
Yes.
That's so cool.
What's a string map? Tell us.
So a string map is like, we're going to do it red string to be very dramatic.
Everybody uses red string.
Yeah. No like black or white string. That's boring. Right. But let's do red string. So they'll have this big board, like usually one of those cork board.
Yeah.
Yes. And they'll have like pictures up and they'll have like timestamps, and then they'll use the string to map out and put little push pins and then put the string together, like this person is related to this person and this person is related to this person.
And this happened here and this one happened here.
Exactly. I feel like the Pappygate episode that we talked about would have been really good with one of these like string timelines.
I agree.
Yeah. If you haven't gone back and listened to Pappygate, go do it. That's one of my favorite episodes because it was just so much fun. And Tina and I were drinking during that recording.
So far, it's been the only one that we have.
The rest of the time, we're drinking coffee.
Right, because we record in the morning, so obviously, coffee it is.
All right, so we're back on the morning of October 3rd. The man who was mowing the lawn, James Buchanan, had been shot at 7:41. I'm talking about the timeline, okay? Mm-hmm. So October 3rd, 7:41 a.m., James Buchanan is shot while mowing the lawn. Witnesses heard a loud bang and thought his lawnmower had exploded and hit him. Turns out that wasn't the case. He had been shot. At 8:12 a.m., that's only, what, 30
minutes?
30 minutes later?
Yeah.
30 minutes later, at 8:12 a.m., Prem Wallaker was shot while pumping gas at the Mobil station. At 8:37 a.m., that's 20 minutes later, Sarah Ramos was shot while sitting on the bench. Then at 9:58 a.m., about an hour later, Lori Rivera was shot at the Shell gas station while she was vacuuming her minivan. Are these people connected? I mean, it's pretty random for a person to go around and just randomly start shooting people. He or she doesn't know. And Tina mentioned the ATF gets involved. It's all hands on deck.
It's extremely frustrating. It's scary for everybody. There are dozens of reporters now asking questions. People are terrified that a crazed person or people are on the loose and authorities don't have answers.
Michael Borchard of the ATF Baltimore Field Division says one of the best pieces of evidence that investigators had at this point was the bullets that were taken from each of the victims. And we see pictures of the bullets, and they looked like mangled pieces of metal. The bullets were sent to the ATF lab, and immediately ballistics experts got to work. They quickly figured out that the bullets were fired by a rifle. It was a caliber .223 Remington projectile, we hear. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure gun people know what that means.
All rifles look the same to me.
I don't know. I don't know. The marks on the bullet each matched up to one another, meaning it was the same firearm. So when I was watching this, when they were talking about the ballistics and like the marks on each one of the bullets, it reminded me of when I was in college and I was writing for a local newspaper, and I wrote a piece called The CSI Effect, because at that point in time in 2006, the TV show CSI was huge. Do you remember CSI?
Of course.
Loved it.
Yeah.
With Gil Grissom and like the Vegas crew.
I don't remember the actors.
Oh, I do. I wrote a piece about how police investigators and crime lab techs were able to use DNA, ballistics, and such to catch the bad guys, or as my kids like to call it, bandits.
The bandits.
We love that word, the bandits. So during my interview of the forensic supervisor at a particular police department where I did the interview, he took me down to the room where they had the ballistics firing tank, and I got to fire his service weapon twice into this metal-looking tub that had a cover over the top a rectangular hole on one side where he and I were standing. And then after I fired his gun 2 times into the tank, he opened the lid, and inside it was filled with water, and 2 bullets were on the bottom of this tank, of this like water tank, and he pulled them out. He then took me upstairs back to the crime lab area, and he let me look at both of those bullets side by side under a microscope. And since they had been fired by the same gun, we could see what are called striations on these bullets. And striations are these like very fine, unique lines that are specific to one specific gun. And because the 2 bullets had just been fired from the same gun, they were identical. It was so cool to have that. You see it on TV, but then actually see it in real life.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Fascinating.
And it was really, really neat because you hear about these things and think you actually get to experience it firsthand. And I just wanted to share that little factoid with you, Tina.
Did they create this specifically in guns where you could tell that the bullet came from a specific gun, or is it just something that happened?
Like I said, if there's any ATF agents out there who want to answer that question, I have no idea. Tina's looking at me here while we're sitting here recording, and I'm just like, Tina, how would I have that answer for you?
I just wondered if they had mentioned that. That's all.
He did not mention that back then. And if he did, I probably don't remember. I mean, 2006 was a long time ago.
You're right. What a cool experience, though. I think if I got to do something like that, I might have changed my mind on what career I wanted to do. But when I think back on it, lab work was never one of my strengths. I followed my grades. I got A's in communication, so I figured that must mean that's what I'm good at.
That's what you're good at. At this point, the ATF has linked all 5 of the shootings to a single gun, meaning the same person or the same people are responsible for all of these killings. And police say that since they know a rifle was used, this person was shooting from a distance, at least 50 to 100 feet away or more. They knew they had a sniper on their hands at this point, which is terrifying. And at this point, knowing the killer was further away and not in the immediate area of the shootings, police started looking for witnesses that were further away from each one of the scenes. And at this point, we enter the white box truck. Tina, tell us about the white box truck, because it infuriates me when I think back on the white box truck in this case.
Ugh. Okay, so the white box truck. I see what happened here.
Oh, that's all I have to say.
The white box truck ends up being a giant mistake. But what happened was in 2 of the shootings, a witness from each scene reported seeing a white box truck in the area, or one leaving shortly after the shooting happened. And this is kind of confusing because when they talk about the white box truck on the show, we see images on screen of a U-Haul type of truck with a back that has a gate that you lift up to open. We hear one of the theories is that maybe the shooting is coming from the back of the box truck. Maybe the sniper's lifting the gate, shooting the gun, which, Jen, you said the gun made a super loud sound. They think maybe it made an echo in the back of the box truck, and that makes sense with the loud gunshot. And then they close the gate, which would be why no one saw anyone shooting a gun.
And then they drive away.
Right. But it turns out police are looking for another type of white box truck, we learn later. A Ford Econovan, which to me looks more like a white van than a white box truck, like a delivery van. It's all very confusing. The only sense I can make of it is that someone reported something that looked like a U-Haul at one scene, someone else reported something that looked like a van, and then they kind of think that maybe it's the van. They look everywhere for this white box truck. They're stopping white trucks, vans, everywhere. But as we mentioned, it doesn't lead us anywhere.
I remember watching this and they were like pulling over like Dunkin' Donuts vans. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't think the Dunkin' man is your shooter.
It was a giant waste of resources.
This takes us to 9:20 p.m. on October 3rd. October 3rd has been an insanely busy day with all of these shootings happen. Police get a call saying 72-year-old Pascal Charlotte was walking across the street in Washington, D.C. and was shot. The area he was walking in was just over the Montgomery County line where all of these other shootings had occurred. Nobody saw anything. There were no witnesses. Mr. Charlotte was not robbed. He was simply shot for no reason as he was walking down a street. And at this point, we hear a news report that says, in little more than a day, 6 bullets, 6 murders.
Do snipers never rest?
I would be tired.
Exhausted.
Remember, murder's hard. Murder is exhausting.
When did you say that?
The Koberger episode. That was a bad line.
Right. Very bad line.
It's crazy. So this takes us to the next morning, October 3rd. Everyone wants answers.
Except no one even wants to leave their house.
They're all afraid. The news media is swarming the Montgomery police station. So Chief Moose gives one of many press conferences that morning to tell the public what police know, which isn't much at all. And at this news conference, it's put out that police are looking for that white box truck that Tina was talking about.
Tips on the white box truck start coming in, but so far, no connection to any of the shootings. And this whole investigation is about to get even more complicated.
And that's because at 2:30 p.m. on October 4th, a 911 call comes into Spotsylvania County, Virginia. Say that 5 times fast.
No,
Spotsylvania. What? I can't even say it once.
Spotsylvania.
Look at you. A call comes in at 2:30 p.m. on October 4th, and everyone's worst fears have become a reality. There's been another shooting. The caller reports that a woman has been shot in a parking lot. 43-year-old Carolyn Sewall was loading up some of her things into her car in a Michael's craft store parking lot when she was shot in the chest. Miraculously, Carolyn survived the shooting. And police at this time knew that the shooter or the shooters were mobile. They were moving around.
They were on the go.
They had already shot people in Maryland, in Washington, D.C., and now they were in Virginia. And at this point, the shootings all appeared to random, making police wonder how in the world they're going to get one set ahead of this person to figure out where they would strike next.
There's no motive. And the area they're searching just got larger. How in the world are they going to catch a sniper? They have to expand their task force. They need more people.
2 days go by and nothing from the killer. No shootings. Could it be over? Could he have gotten into a car accident and it's over with? And that takes us to October 7th. April Carroll with the ATF then joined the hunt for the sniper. It's 8:09 a.m. Kids are walking to school. They're getting off the bus when shots ring out outside of Benjamin Tasker Middle School in Bowie, Maryland. 13-year-old Iran Brown is shot in the chest and critically wounded. Now, this wasn't featured on the show, but as I've mentioned, I've studied this case heavily over the years. And Iran Brown was shot after getting out of his aunt's car in front of the middle school. He managed to get back into the car and his aunt hit the gas pedal and rushed the boy to the local hospital for help. At the crime scene in the tree-lined area across from the school's entrance, investigators find the death tarot card and a shell casing. Inscribed on the tarot card is the phrase, "For you, Mr. Police Officer, code, call me God. Do not release to press." And this would be the first official communication that the snipers would leave for police to find. Now, this is when Chief Moose gave the infamous press conference, which we see a clip of on the show, when he says, with tears literally streaming down both of his cheeks, it's stepping over the line, shooting a kid. I guess it's getting to be really, really personal now. Like, literally, look, I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
I remember watching this press conference live, and just like right now, I have chills. Police put a tip line number out to the public, and as soon as that number was out, phones started ringing and potential leads started coming in. Now, Agent April Carroll then had the task of going through those tips one at a time and prioritizing them and comparing them to information that had been received at the crime scenes.
Agent Carroll also mentions that in her experience with serial murder cases, the killers go to the press conferences or return to the scene of the crime to watch authorities work the investigation.
That's creepy.
Yep. So she's also going back and looking at video of the press conferences to see if anyone suspicious stands out. She says authorities were very aware that the killer could be among them at the press conferences and at the scene of the crimes.
While police are going through all these tips, the shooter, or the shooters, were on the move. On October 9th, 53-year-old Dean Harold Myers was pumping gas at a gas station near Manassas, Virginia, when he was shot and killed. And as you can imagine, people all around were terrified. School sports were canceled. People shielded their kids when walking to and from the bus. I take my kids to the bus stop every morning, and thinking about trying to cover their bodies with my bodies to shield them as a parent is gut-wrenching. Gas stations started putting up these giant tarps around gas pumps so people from the roadway or the highway couldn't see if somebody was pumping gas or not. That's how scared everybody was. 2 days later, on the morning of October 11th, 53-year-old Kenneth Bridges was pumping gas in Fredericksburg, Virginia, when he was shot dead. No one knew where the sniper was going to strike next. Everybody was a target. And then on October 14th, 3 days after Kenneth Bridges had been killed, police receive a call about a woman who was shot outside of a Home Depot in Falls Church, Virginia. 47-year-old Linda Franklin, who worked at the FBI as an analyst, is shot dead in a covered parking garage. The sniper had killed a fellow FBI agent, which sent ripples of fear. Even FBI agents aren't safe at this point in time. And this shooting hit especially close to home for ATF agent April Carroll because her family was supposed to be at Home Depot that day.
Agent Carroll tells the camera that she had no idea how intense it would be to be assigned to this case. There was so much anxiety and stress and pressure for authorities to find the sniper.
So this takes us to Saturday, October 19th, when 37-year-old Jeffrey Hopper was shot in Ashland, Virginia, in a parking lot of a popular restaurant called the Ponderosa Steakhouse. Heroically, his wife ended up calling 911 after her husband had been shot, and Jeffrey Hopper ended up surviving. Go wife.
That's awesome.
At the scene, police found a letter from the shooter tacked up to a tree in some nearby woods, which demanded $10 million. It also included in that letter a threat to children.
Jeffrey's wife also pointed police in the direction of the letter. She told police she thought the gunshot sounded like it came from the woods. And when they checked it out, they found the letter. She saved her husband, and she told him where it came from, the bullet.
Way to go, Miss Hopper. Seriously.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. So I'm going to read you some of the letter, okay? Now, I want to say, like, this person's grammar who wrote the letter was not very good, so bear with me here. For you, Mr. Police, call me God. Do not release to the press. That sounds familiar, right? It's the exact same message that was left on the death card at the shooting of 13-year-old Iran Brown.
Right.
The letter goes on to say, if stopping the killing is more important than catching us, now then you will accept our demand, which are non-negotiable. Terrible grammar. You will place $10 million in Bank of America with an ATM card.
One $10 million.
Not many.
Just one $10 million.
Just one $10 million. We have tried to contact you to start negotiation without any response. And that has police going, wait, what? They've tried to call us? And as you can imagine, this is a big break in the case. The notes stated that they had contacted an officer, Derek, who worked in the police department's media division, saying they had been involved in a shooting and murder in the state of Alabama. I don't understand what kind of criminal calls the police with tips about who they are. I mean, seriously, why in the world would you want to have police led to you if you're responsible for all these horrible crimes? It makes zero sense to me.
Well, because they're psychopaths who need attention. That's the only thing I can come up with. Also, Jen, do you know of any criminal who has been able to successfully get $10 million that they demand from police?
I will counter you that. So it wasn't $10 million, but D.B. Cooper, who we did an episode on, got away with some cash.
He did, but not $10 million.
$10 million.
And not only that, Jen, they want a debit card because obviously that's not traceable.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just like writing a check for drug money. Like in the Corey Richins case. If you haven't gone back and listened to those 2 episodes, we recommend you do so. They are both quite fascinating. Back to the story. So police at this time in Maryland didn't think the shooting in Alabama had anything to do with what was happening in their jurisdiction, since the shootings of 2 female employees of a store had happened more than a month before this shooting rampage had even started. So in Alabama, 2 people have been shot outside of this like little store, but police were like, oh, we don't think that's related.
Because it's in Alabama.
Because it's in Alabama. We're talking about DC area.
Right.
So, but investigators don't give up on that tip. They forward the information to an FBI agent in Alabama. And we hear that at the shooting in Alabama, which was described as a robbery gone wrong, the suspects had dropped a shooter magazine at the scene. And on this magazine, police were able to recover some fingerprints.
Not a magazine like a bullet magazine.
No!
Like an actual paper magazine.
Like you're flipping through the pages. The fingerprints were run through the Alabama State Crime Lab and didn't come up with a hit. So the ATF ran those fingerprints through a national database, and they got a hit. Woohoo! See you later, sucker. The fingerprint ended up being matched to somebody who was 17 years old, and his name was Lee Boyd Malvo. Now, Malvo was an immigrant from the West Indies, and he had been detained and fingerprinted when he was coming into the country from Canada. And at the time, a very, very smart police investigator who fingerprinted Malvo had asked who he was with, and Malvo had said that he was traveling with someone named John Allen Muhammad. Now, Muhammad had served in the Army under the name John Allen Williams, and he was no stranger to police. His ex-wife had a restraining order against him to prevent him from seeing their kids because he had kidnapped them before.
Terrifying.
And at this point, police have a name, but they don't know where Malvo and Muhammad are. They could truly be anywhere. And one clue that they did have to find him was his blue Chevy Caprice. And they knew the license plate. But unfortunately, the 2 could be anywhere, as we said. And on the evening of October 22nd, 2002, at 5:55 p.m., those 2 and that vehicle were in Aspen Hill, Maryland. 35-year-old bus driver Conrad Johnson was shot and killed while standing on the steps of his bus.
Agent Carroll says this is when they have felt the most pressure because now they have names. They have faces, and they have a car they're looking for, but it's not a white box truck. That theory is now out the window. Agent Carroll says they need to process the scene as quickly as possible to lead them to any evidence they can use to find these 2 men.
That takes us to the next day, October 23rd, when a federal arrest warrant was issued for Muhammad and Malvo, and a description of their vehicle was released to the media. Finally. And not long thereafter, police get word of where the car might be. It's been spotted in Washington County at a highway rest stop. The caller states that they think there's at least 1 person in the car, so investigators get in their vehicles and, forgive my language for this, Tina, they haul ass to that rest stop.
They sure do. But they're also trying to be discreet. They don't want to catch the media's attention, so they keep their lights off and their sirens off.
Police get to the staging area, which is set up a short distance away from the rest stop, and oh, the excitement is real. I'm sure the adrenaline was pumping at this point for everyone. The state police SWAT team was there, and they were going to be the ones who go into the wooded area near the parking lot and slowly sneak out into the cover of darkness and close in on the vehicle. And I can totally visualize this, okay? It's the middle of October. It's cold. You can see your breath as you exhale. It's dark. It's just after 3 a.m. The parking lot is quiet, besides a few cars that are sporadically driving by at a high rate of speed on Interstate 70. Out of the darkness, police officers in their bulletproof vests carrying their weapons at the ready make their way through the tree line. The blue Chevy Caprice sits in the parking lot. The windows are tinted. Is anyone inside? Slowly, the teams flank the car and bust out the windows on both sides of the Chevy Caprice. And in a daze, half asleep, both Malvo and Muhammad are pulled out of the car and put on the pavement on opposite sides of the car.
Police separate them so that they can't talk to each other.
There's broken glass all around and on the ground. While searching the vehicle, police find a hole in the trunk above the license plate. Inside the car, amongst the broken glass, lays a large rifle. It's over. It's finally over. We're safe. Everyone can finally breathe again.
What an absolute relief this must have felt like for them. And you can absolutely see it, the overwhelming emotion on their faces in these interviews as they describe this experience.
A press conference was held that afternoon, and investigators made it a point to list the victims. October 2nd, James Martin. October 3rd, James Buchanan. October 3rd, Prem Walliker. October 3rd, Sarah Ramos. October 3rd, Lori Lewis Rivera. October 3rd, Pascal Charlotte. October 4th, Caroline Sewell. October 7th, Iran Brown. October 9th, Kenneth Bridges. October 14th, Linda Franklin. October 19th, Jeffrey Hopper. October 22nd, Conrad Johnson. In total, according to the FBI's website, 10 people were randomly killed and 3 were critically injured. In total, John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo killed 17 people and wounded 10 others. And they did this throughout multiple states. We have just barely touched the iceberg of this case because they committed atrocious acts elsewhere before going to DC and eventually being caught.
And why did they do this? According to an article on NBCnews.com, Malvo tested in May 2006 at Muhammad's murder trial, saying Muhammad planned to extort millions from authorities so he could set up a camp in Canada to train homeless kids how to terrorize cities. If you're wondering how these two know each other, in the same courtroom, Malvo also said he met Muhammad in the Caribbean after he had been abandoned by his parents and that Muhammad took him in.
Malvo was sentenced to life without parole, and according to Maryland Matters newspaper online, Malvo was transferred from Virginia Supermax prison to the King County Correctional Center, which is a level 4 security prison. Muhammad was convicted of capital murder and he was executed in November of 2009. And if you haven't already watched Catching Killers on Netflix, I recommend you do. There's 3 seasons of it, and the cases they cover are fascinating. There's an episode about the Atlanta Olympic bomber. There's an episode about BTK killer. There's a lot of good ones. I also want to say thank you to Roots and Sports Coffee for filling our cup this week and sponsoring our episode. If you haven't already done so while listening to us, check out their website, rootsandspores.com. They also offer subscriptions, and those are discounted. And you can have your coffee shipped directly to your door before you ever run out, which is amazing.
Can't complain about that.
We'll post some pictures on our Facebook, Instagram, and website of us drinking our yummy Roots and Spores coffee. We are this morning having the Pinnacle Peep medium roast, and it is delicious.
Smells great too.
And we're going to include a link to the website so you can order some on this podcast description.
5 stars for Roots and Spores. And if you also want to give us 5 stars, please do. Have you left us a review? Think about that. If you have not done so, please do it now. You can do it on Apple Podcasts. You can do it on Spotify. Anywhere you get your podcasts.
If you enjoyed listening to us, you can also donate to our podcast at buymeacoffee.com/Two Crime Newsies. Because we love what we do and we want to keep giving you these stories every week. And it just helps us out.
Fuels our podcast.
I love it, Tina. All right, everyone. We will talk to you again next week. Bye.